need to see the chat. Be checking it periodically. Okay. Let me know if you can hear me or if there are any issues. Can you see slides? Are you able to hear me to see the slides? I'm not sure what's happening here. I'm using my iPad today, so it's slightly different environment. Okay, good. Excellent. And can you see the slides? Okay. And now, okay, great. All right. So we're going to talk about inheritance today. So really, this is to build on classes. Yeah. So we talked the last time about classes and getters and setters, and today we're going to, take this one step further and talk about inheritance. So in this slide, we have an example of, a set of classes or a set of objects. So we have a big class, right, called animal, where, all of these could be considered animals, whether it's cats, rabbits, or people. Yeah, all of these are animals. They share some properties in common. So basically, this is what we mean. But there are also, different properties or different data attributes and methods for each one of these categories. Yeah, so cats, behave differently than rabbits, than people, and that's really what we mean by inheritance. Okay, Rawa. Okay. So we even have, maybe people are even subdivided into more categories or subclasses, for instance, like student. Give me a second. Try to do this so that, yeah, okay. Towards inheritance, you have typically a parent class or a superclass. In that, slide or in that example, it's the animal class. And you have a child class, one or more. So also we refer to it as subclass. So we have person, cat, and rabbit are all subclasses of the superclass animal. And you have student is a subclass of person. What does it mean, subclass versus superclass? So when I say, person, cat, or rabbit is a subclass of animal, this means it inherits all the data attributes of animal and behaviors of animal. Yeah, so subclasses inherit the properties of the superclass, whether they're methods or data attributes. In other words, right, animals, we know that they have, from the previous lecture, they have two data attributes, age and name. I expect the person to also have age and name, cat to have age and name, and rabbit to have age and name. Yeah, and then students inherits from person, so it's a subclass of person. All right. So student will inherit all properties of person. So if person has additional properties, all students will also inherit this. So the subclasses, as we said, inherit data attributes and behaviors from parent class, but you're also allowed to add more information or more attributes to subclasses that do not exist in the superclass, and you're able to also add more behavior or even override behavior from the parent class. And we're going to look at a very detailed example of this. So here's the superclass we defined the last time. This is the animal class. It has, the constructor, which, sets the age to 0 and the name to none. And then we have the getters for the age and name. And we have the setters for the age and name as well. Yeah, so you have the two getters here and then the two setters. All right. And then you have finally the string method, which allows you to print animal in a user-friendly format. Okay, we've done this the last time. So What I want to, iterate on or stress on is here this object thing. We've never talked about this before. I said, this is a parent class and everything is an object in Python. We're going to make this more specific today. Yeah. So everything is an object. Yeah. Class object implements basic operations in Python, like binding variables, etc. Yeah? So this is really the default parent class for any class you create, right? It's going to be object. Yeah? And here, whenever I say class animal and between parentheses, I specify a particular class, in that case, it was object, right? This means that this class animal inherits all the properties of object. Now let's define another class called animal. Yeah, what is this class doing? It's a class called cat. Right? This class cat inherits from animal, so its parent is animal. This means, right, that it has all the properties and methods of animal, and we add additional methods for it. Yeah, so basically we override methods. Let's do that in the editor. I'm gonna open the editor. All right, let me see. Okay. So let's do the following. I'm gonna copy this guy animal. Right, that's the one we've done before. Yeah, so just copy the definition of the class animal that we've done before. Okay, and now I'm going to define a new class called cat. Here I specify, right, instead of saying class cat of object, I'm going to specify that this class cat inherits from animal. Okay, this tells me, this is a subclass of the class animal. Okay, and I want to say, okay, so what does this mean when I write this? It means that the following: every cat has all the properties, age, name, the getters, the setters, the print method. Yeah, all of them would be, the same for cat. Yeah? And now I want to define a new function, right, which is speak. So cats, speak. So it takes self. And what does it do? It prints the string meow. So whenever I call this method, whenever I have a cat object or a cat instance and I say speak, it will just print out meow. Okay. So far, so good. All right. Please, interrupt me. It might be easier. It's very difficult for me to go on the iPad and switch between chat and the other screens for some reason. So please turn on your mic if there are any issues to let me know. All is good so far? I'm looking at the chat. Everybody's following so far? Okay, great. So let's do the cat class. So I defined the cat class. All I did was, I added this function speak. Let's see how I interact with this. I'm going to define two types of instances. One is animal, right? So A is an animal, right? And I'm going to set a name of the animal to Arna. I'm going to set the age of animal to 3. And then I'm going to define a cat object. So I'm going to say create a cat object. Again, right, all I did was, said, okay, use the constructor of cat. And then C dot set name to Kado. Right, and C dot set age to Kado. To 5. Yeah, so this cat is called Kado, which is actually my cat. I'm at home today, so you might pass by and you get to see him as well. And his age is roughly 5. Okay. And then I'm going to see C.speak. So, call the method speak. So let's analyze this for a second. Yeah. The previous one, the A, business as before. We've done this before, right? I'm going to say, when I say A is equal to animal, that's going to call the init of animal. It's going to set age to 0 and name to none. And then I have setting the name to Arna and setting the age. Then I hear the second part is saying set, create a cat object. So how do I create a cat object? How do I tell Python that I want an instance of the cat class? I'm going to say C equal to cat, empty parentheses. What is getting called here, right? You don't see any init in cat, right? What happens is we know that cat inherits from animal. It's a subclass of animal. This means you go and call the init of animal because there is no init defined in cat. So you go to the previous class or the parent class and see if there is an init you use, right? So that is going to set cat.age to 0 and cat.name to none. And then I'm saying c.setName of cat. Again, if you look at the class definition of cat, there is no function called setAge or setName, but I can find them from the parent because cat inherits everything from the animal class. Okay, and then I'm calling c.speak, and I'm going to also print c. Okay, let's run this code and see what we get. Okay, invalid syntax. Why invalid syntax? Because this has to be lowercase. Okay, and as you see, it does the following. It prints meow, and then animal, cadeau, and 5. Right. So when I said print C, again, it looked at, okay, is there any string method defined in cat? No. Then go to its parent, which is animal, and see if there is a string method defined there. There is, which prints, animal, and then the name, and then the age. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm back on the chat. I can see the chat. So let me know if you have any questions. So far, so good? Yes? No? Okay, great. So let's say the following. Let's say I want to, change this a little bit. I don't like it that it prints animal. Cadeau is a cat and not animal. How do I do this? How do I override, the string method to be able to, print? If I give it a cat, if I, give print an instance of a cat, it should print cat, its name, and its age. All I have to do is redefine the string method inside the subclass cat. Yeah, so I'm overriding the string method from the parent in the subclass. So I'm going to say, there is a function called print, or a string in the class cat, and this is what it does. It's return a string, which happens to be, instead of animal now, it's cat plus str of self.name plus, str of self.age. Yeah, so all I did was define this function. Okay, and now if I run, this is what it prints. It prints cat, cadeau, and 5. How did it know, right, at this time that when I said print C, it used the, cat string method? Is because it first looks at, what is C's type? Yeah, C is a cat. I know that. So I go inside the cat definition and see if there is a string method. Yes, there is. Then I'm going to use. If there isn't, I'm going to look at the parent class to see if there is a string method. Yeah. So this is overriding, called overriding of the cat, of the string method. Okay. So this is what we have here. So again, right, when I say, the parent class is animal, this means I'm inheriting all attributes of animal: the init, the constructor, the age, the name, the getters, the setters, and the string method. Okay. This is the new functionality that is only specific to cat. So I can say for an animal, an object of animal, basically I cannot say for an object of type animal a.speak, right? This is not defined in animal. This is defined only for cats. We know that only cats can speak so far. And then the third one overrides the string method in the subclass cat. Okay. Just to make the point clear, if I have here the object A, if I try to do a.speak, it should give me an error, right? It will tell me, A doesn't have, this method speak. Why? Because I know that A is an animal, so I have to go to this definition, and there is no method here in animal that is called speak, and of course object doesn't have speak. Yeah. If I run, It's going to give me, you know, animal object has no attribute. You have to know the difference between the two. Subclass inherits everything from superclass, but the superclass doesn't inherit anything from the subclass. All right. Questions? Okay. And yeah, just a one side remark here, you know, we always said, you know, for every class you create, right, you have to create a constructor. The constructor is not missing. I'm using the animal version, yeah, because, you know, cat inherits even the constructor of animal. Okay. So overriding superclass methods, like what we did with the string. So a subclass can have methods with the same name as a superclass, and that means you say basically you're overriding the superclass method. For an instance, right? Let's look at a method name. So for an instance of a class. So let's say I defined an object of type cat. What I'm going to do, or Python, how does it figure out which method to use if you have, you know, a method defined in multiple classes or in a hierarchy of classes? It's going to look for the method name in the current class definition. Yeah, so I know C is a cat, then I'm going to look at, you know, the method name in cat. If it's defined, I use it. If it's not defined, I go up one level. So, you know, check the parent. Does this method exist in the parent of this subclass? If yes, I use it. If not, I go to the parent of, you know, the parent or the grandparent, see if this method is there, and so on. So you can have a hierarchy of classes. You can have, you know, cat, and inside of it, you know, another subclass, or, you know, there is a subclass that inherits from cat, which is a kitten, and, you know, and so on. Right? Okay, and you always use the first method of the hierarchy that you find with that method. Okay. Maybe let's do a rabbit, you know, subclass. So can somebody tell me, you know, if I want to create a rabbit subclass, which, you know, also inherits from animal, and let's say it just, you know, prints, you know, rabbit, the name and the age. How would I do that? Right. So just say the same exercise, but for rabbits. What would you do? Any thoughts? I want to create another subclass of animal called rabbit, which basically, so a class rabbit of animal, okay, Muhammad, and then, you know, all I have to do to make it print, you know, rabbit, and then name and age is to do what? To override which function? To override the print method, right? So basically all I have to do is to override the string method, say, okay, you know, exactly. So as Lynn is saying, you just define, you know, string method inside the rabbit class and say, you know, print rabbit, colon, and then self.name and self.age. Okay, great. We'll skip the rabbit one and do, you know, basically a person, right? So we want to create a person subclass. What is a person? A person is, you know, an animal, so it has a name and an age, but also has an additional data attribute. So unlike cats that not have any additional data attributes, a person does have an additional data attribute, which is a list of friends. So, you know, every person that you create, you would have for him, you know, who's other people that he or she is friends with. Okay. Also, a person speaks by saying hello. So unlike cats, the meow, you know, a person says hello. If you say p dot, you know, speak, is going or she's going to say hello. And then we also can compute age difference between people, which is useful for dating. Yeah. So, you know, if you have like above the age difference is above, you know, 10 years or something like this, you say, you know, you're not compatible for each other. Okay, let's try to write this together. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to go here and start defining a class called person. I know this class inherits from animal. Okay, so it's a subclass of animal, meaning it inherits all the properties of animal. Here I'm going to create an override of the constructor. Why? Because I have additional data attributes. Unlike cats, you only had age and name, so I could use the constructor of the animal class. Here, a person has additional attributes. To be able to define these additional attributes, I have to define a constructor, a particular constructor for person. So I'm going to do init, right? And I'm going to say, it takes self, and also I'll set the age and name directly inside the constructor. I don't have to do this, but this is what I want to do. Yeah, so when I create a person, I'm gonna give it an age and name, because unlike cats or animals, we tend to give babies a name directly, and we register them, so we give them a name and age immediately. Yeah. So how do I do this? Now I have multiple ways of doing this. I can say self.name is equal to name, self.age is equal to age, right? And then self.friends, because I want to add an additional property for people, which is friends, which is an empty list, right? That's one possibility. And what happens here is now it knows that a person has 3 attributes: name, age, and the third attribute, friends. Yeah. The other way to do it, and the preferable way, is to use the constructor of the parent. I know that person inherits from animal or a subclass of animal, so I can go here and say animal dot init, right, of self, right? So create an object of type animal. That means what? That means you're going to call the constructor of animal, and then you set the age to 0 and the name to none. And then I'm going to say animal dot set age to age. Right? So I'm using the method of animal to set the age of this person, and I'm going to use animal dot set name to name. Right? So I'm using, the methods of the parent. Why this is preferable? Because, right, if I define it the previous way, it will be, person is not really inheriting the name and age from the parent animal. It's, overriding that. So it's slight difference that, or a subtle difference, but just to make it clear. Yeah, let's stick with this one. So what I did here is I said, okay, call the constructor of animal, because I know person is a subclass of animal. How do I call the constructor of animal? The name of the class dot init, and I pass self. That would call this method on top. And then I'm setting the age, which is this method, to set the age of this person, and I'm setting the name as the name passed in the. And I'm finally saying, I have empty list of friends because I was just born. Let's just do that. I'll take questions and then we'll run it. Questions? Okay. Can you tell me now, how do I create an object of type person? So if I want to instantiate a type, a person P, what do I need to do? So I've defined the class person, right? I said it inherits from, this animal class. How do I create a new object of type person? Thoughts? How do you construct an object of any type? You don't know? Nobody knows in the class how to create a type, an animal, an object of type person. P, I want to create a variable, P, and I want to say that this is a person. What do I do? Here's the class definition. Yeah, I have something called person, right? I define the class called person. How do I set P? I say P is equal to person. That's all I have to do, right? But it takes, 2 arguments, self, age, and name. So it takes 2 arguments apart from self. So I have to give it an age, which is, let's say 1, and the name, which is Ali. That what is this going to do is going to set, an object, or create an object of type person, right, which has an age of 1 and a name of Ali, and has empty, list as friends. Exactly. Yeah. So it seems there is some lagging or something like this, I guess. Okay. So, but yeah, so Lynn, right? Remember that if you look at the constructor of person, it takes, 2 arguments each, in addition to self, the age and the name. Yeah, so it's different from how we define the cat. Yeah, the cat are just using the constructor of animal, which doesn't take any arguments. Here I've really explicitly said it takes, the age and the name. So I have, when creating the object, I have to pass these arguments as well. Okay. Now, let's say I want to print, the person. So how do I print a person? I say, that this is a person, and this is his age, and this is his name. All I have to do is to override the string method. I'm going to say the following: self, right? So it's an override of the print method, and I'm going to say return person plus, string of self. Don't need this because self.name is a string plus, colon plus string of self. And because age is an integer. Now I've created this Ali person. Right, so I created P of name Ali and age 20. And then I can say print P. And what it's going to do is it's going to print age of 1 second. So it says my prime initiate age of age. I passed, yeah, okay. So I'm passing the parameters. Passing age first and then the name second. Okay, let's try it. Okay, requires that age. Where is the issue here? Let me see. Okay. So I'm passing self, right? Because I'm using the class method. Okay. And it says print person Ali and 20. Okay. Yeah. Good. Questions so far? Okay. Let's do this on the slides. Yeah, the rest of the things on the slide. So this is the init method. Now I want to define another method which does the following: speak, right? So I want to define a method that, whenever I call it for a person, it says hello. Right? Remember, person inherits from animal. Animal doesn't have this method, so I have to really define it in the, class person. Okay. So this is what we've done. I'll skip this. I'll skip this. Let's do the speak first. Yeah. So define, a method called speak. All it does is print hello. And so I'm going to go here and then add a method. Right, speak. What it takes itself. So this is inside the, the person class, and it prints hello. And now if I call this method, p.speak, it's going to say hello. Right? So really, it goes here, check the class person. Yes, there is a method called speak, and what it does, it just prints hello. Okay, let's do a couple of more methods, right? So I want to say, a person has friends. So right now, the friends is an empty list. I want to be able to add friends to, a person. So I'm going to find, a function called add friend, which takes 2 arguments, self and other, right? Where other is also a person, right? So a person is friends with persons. Okay, I'm gonna check self dot friends, this list, right, of friends, does it contain, right? So other not in self.friends, meaning what? Am I already friends with you? If I am already friends with you, I don't need to repeat. Yeah. So if other not in self.friends, self.friends, friend, right? Other. Otherwise, you just, I'm already friends with you. I don't need to add you twice. Okay. So what is this method doing? It's really adding, a friends to my list. So I have this person Ali. Let's say I create another person, which is, whose age is 23, and her name is Mona. Okay, and then create. So I'm gonna give it a different name, M. And then we have another person, which is 30, and Mona, Amini, for instance, and another person, which is L. 5, and your name is Lena, let's say. Okay, so I've created 3 new people, right? Each one has his age and name, and now I want to add these guys to the, friends of P, of Ali. How do I do this? All I have to say is say the following: P.add friend. That would, call this method add friend in the class person. What does it do? It checks, is this person M inside my list? No, because the list is initially empty. So I'm going to add it. And then I'm going to add also A, and I'm going to add. Okay. So I added, 3 friends to, P. He's now friends with Mona, with Amani, and with me. Okay. We could of course print, now P dot friends, but that's bad practice. We talked about this the last time. Do not, directly access a data attribute of an object. The better way to do this is to say, you know what? I'm going to define a getter for this method. All right, so get friends for this, person object. And what does it return? It just returns self.friends. Okay, so this is all it does. Okay, so now I can say print p.getFriends, and that's gonna be a little bit messy. So let's see what happens if I run this. But before that, let me just see if you have any questions. Okay, so what I did again, I just created 2 methods. One to add a person to a friend, another person's friend list, and the other one is to return this list of friends, which is a list of people. So every item inside this list, is going to be a person. And this is what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna print it, and let's see what it does. Okay, so I'm going to run. So it's gonna print, person Ali 20, hello, and then it's gonna print, a list. If you see, there are the square brackets of 3 objects: first person, the second person, and the third person. Why did it do that? So why did it do that? Is because it knows that it can't call the print method or on every object inside. So it's not going to apply this on every object inside. It sees this is a list of objects. This is the list contains just references to the objects where they are in memory. If I want to print the list of friends, I have to do it via a loop. So loop over every element inside this list and then use the print method, the string method of person. So instead of doing this, I'm going to say, f or friends is equal to p.getFriends. That will give me this list that is printed here. And then I'm going to loop. So I'm going to say for f and friends. So loop over every item here, every object here, print. And now let's see what it does. And now what it does, it says prints person Ali 20, that's this print P. Ali said hello, and these are the people he's friends with. Mona, and her age is 23. Amani, and her age is 30. And Dina, and her age is 25. Okay. Question. You're awfully quiet today. Yeah. So I need to understand why. For instance, you don't like you're having problems with the iPad. No. Okay. Time. Let's go to the next method. Right. So this is what we've done here. I want to define a method called age difference. So it will take two objects of type person, each one with his own age, and it's going to say, whether they have, who's older than who and by how many years. Here's the method. Yeah, let's look at this age difference method at the end of the slide. It takes two objects, self and other. Both of them are people. Yeah, it computes the difference between their ages. So I'm going to do self.age minus other.age, and then check if this is, who's greater. So if self.age is greater than other.age, then self.name, the person, right, referred to by self, is this number of years older than, the other person. And if, it was the opposite, so, the self was younger than the other, I'm going to say, self.name is minus difference, of course, because now this would be negative years younger. Okay. Let's copy it from here. So I'm going to copy this just to save time instead of typing this. Can I copy the whole thing? Okay, so I'm going to add it here, this method. Okay, just remove these guys. Who's doing this noise? Okay. All right. So what I did is just, define this method, right? Age difference just described on this slide. What it does, it just takes two objects of type person and computes the age difference between them. So let's do this in the loop as well, right? So remember, the loop is doing, looping over my friends and just printing them. So I'm going to do the following. Yeah. Instead of printf only, I'm going to say also printf, comma, f.age or p.age, what is it called? Age diff of f, right? So I'm looping over my friends, and for each one, I'm going to print their information plus saying, who's older by how many years. Yeah, if I run it now, it says the following, I'm Ali, I'm 20 years old, hello, because I called the speak method, and then we're saying Ali is 3 years younger than Mona, right? And then why did it do that? Because this method is printing, right, this method, and then saying person, Mona, and now. Okay, so let's maybe make this better. So I'm going to print the person, and then I'm going to print, and then I'm going to call, p.age difference of f. Why did it say this? Because, right, the method itself prints. Yeah, so I don't need to call print of print. Yeah, it's not going to do anything. Yeah. So it says, Mona, that's your first friend is Mona, and she's 23 years old, and Ali is 3 years younger than Mona. And then printed Amani, 30, and then Ali is 10 years younger than Amani, because Ali is 20 and Amani is 30. And then for Dina, Ali is 5 years younger than me. All right. Questions? Okay. We have 7 minutes left, right? So you either ask questions or say something, or I'm going to move on to a different class. So it's up to you. Any questions? Okay, let me ask you a question. Yeah, sure, Misha. And then I'm gonna talk with you. Maybe we'll not start a new class. Okay. So the age difference. Yes, go ahead. It's on the slide right now. I don't know why you can see the slides and at the same time see I can see the chat. So what about the age difference function? Can you tell me? Okay. It's posted on Moodle, right? So all of these classes are posted on. Okay, now for the next 5 minutes, I want to hear. The problem is, right? If I wanted to test today, right? Like giving the class from home because of the lockdown next week, so I might not be able to. They might not allow us on campus, and I have an issue, which is the laptop for some reason doesn't connect Wi-Fi at home. So I need to understand if today's session, with the iPad, what are the issues you have with this? So I can try to figure them out for next time if I have to teach from home for the next few weeks. Can you tell me, right? Did you have any issues with the iPad? I personally had an issue, which is I wasn't able to see the chat while giving the slides or writing code. Did you experience this as well? So right now, okay. So you had no issues at all right now. Can you see other things on the screen? Like, or you just see the Zoom one? Only Zoom, yeah. So this might be a little bit of a problem, right? That we can't, talk to each other or chat while seeing, the slides or the whatever I have open in the background. I'll have to figure this out somehow. Okay, but other than this, we could try WebEx. The only issue with WebEx is, in my experience, it lags more than Zoom. Do you have the same impression or no? So in other classes, or they were never using WebEx, or when we used WebEx before, because I felt that's why we moved to Zoom, is because WebEx was much more lagging. No? What do others feel? Do you prefer WebEx or? Okay, you're saying the same, right? In general, other people, do you prefer WebEx or Zoom? Okay, so it's the same. Mm-hmm. Was I lagging today? Ah, really? Okay, great. That's good to hear. Okay, folks. So please review these slides, like the two programs that we've done. Yeah, so the CAD class and the person class, because we're going to build on them on Monday. Yeah, hopefully I'll be on campus and we'll be using my laptop. But if that doesn't happen, I'll figure out how to make this experience on the iPad as smooth as possible. Yeah, so I'll figure out how do I show you things while seeing the chat window, right? So you don't see the Zoom window only. All right. Thank you, everyone. Please, if you haven't done the assignment, do it. It's very important that you do the assignment. It will, enforce everything that we're talking about this time. Yeah. And one last thing: don't give up hope. I know it's tough for you these days. It's the end of the semester, but try to push on and continue you know, pushing yourself. Okay, we'll talk on Monday. Can you see Arna and Kado? I'll try. Yes, if I'm at home, I'll try to bring them around for sure. You too, Rawat. Bye-bye.